like to call this meeting of the Carson City Historic Resources Commission on September 3rd, 2025 to order. Can we have a roll, please?
Chair Drews,
Here.
Vice Chair Schmitter,
Here.
Commissioner Block, Commissioner Darney,
Here.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Spoda,
Here.
Commissioner Wright. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is public comment. Public is invited at this time to provide any comment on any topic that relates to matters over which the Historic Commission has supervision, including any such matter that's not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action may be taken on a matter raised during this period of public comment. Is there public comment? We can hear it during the item as well. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 4 for possible action. Approval of minutes. We have 2 from July 2nd, 2025 and July 31st, 2025. I think the district attorney would like to
Good afternoon.
inform us.
Michaela Niagos, Deputy District Attorney for the record. According to NRS 241.035, a public body shall approve the minutes of a meeting within 45 days after the meeting or at the next public meeting, whichever occurs later. In this case, we had our regular meeting on July 2nd, and typically we have these meetings 60 days later, so we don't need to provide good cause. However, because we had a special meeting 29 days from the first meeting, I just wanted to point out that both sets of minutes will be approved at the same time, and there is good cause for the July 2nd meetings to be approved today, given that there was a very short period of time and staff required the time to post them and to follow all the other requirements of open meeting law.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes for the July 2nd and
Second.
Motion, do I have a second? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, guys. Next item is meeting items 5A, HRC-2025-0332 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request from Jan T. Morrison, applicant, to 1, replace the front door and install a wrought iron storm door. 2, replace the exterior lights on the front porch, back porch, and balcony. 3, install a new sign on existing posts. 4, install a new fence and gates at the front walk and northwest side of the property on property zone residential office, RO, located at 412 North Division Street, assessor's parcel number 003-238-03. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. The subject property is located at the southwest corner of North Division and West Spear Streets. The house was built in 1906 and is known as the Norcross House and represents an early and relatively uncommon use of cast concrete block in the city. The applicant is seeking approval to replace the front door, replace exterior lighting, install a new sign, and install a new fence and gates. Doors are an important design element in the historic district. Original doors should be retained and repaired whenever possible. When replacement is necessary, the original should be matched in color, size, material, design, ornamentation, and configuration. Additionally, original trim and molding should be retained or duplicated. The applicant has provided evidence that the existing doors are likely not original, as a photo from a 1972 Nevada Appeal article, which is included in your packet, shows different front doors. The proposed doors shown here will be the same size and material as the existing doors, but will only have glass on the upper portion of the doors above the handles. Since the existing doors are likely not original, staff is able to find consistency with the guidelines, with a condition of approval requiring the existing trim and molding be retained or replicated with the replacement of the doors. Moving on to Actually, we'll talk first about the wrought iron storm door. So they are also looking to install a wrought iron storm door. However, they have not provided any information regarding the specifics of the door or photo examples of the door. The intent today is to hear from the commission about the appropriateness of such a door and provide specifics at a future date. So with that, staff would recommend that the commission discuss the storm door. And based on the discussion, the applicant may wish to apply for the storm door at a future date. Moving on to the exterior lights now. So the original fixtures should be retained when at all possible. Just as with the door, different fixtures are shown in the 1972 newspaper article. So it's likely the exterior light fixtures are not original. The applicant is proposing to replace the existing lights with 5 matching light fixtures of different sizes. The wall sconces, which are shown here, are night sky compliant and will project light downward instead of outward or upward, maintaining the current illumination patterns. However, the fixtures are more modern in design. Consistent with the guidelines, replacement fixtures should match the old fixtures in design, color, texture, and materials. Since these are likely not original fixtures, replacement may be appropriate. However, staff would recommend a different style of fixture more appropriate for the era of the house. And there is a condition of approval that states that in the staff report. Moving on to the sign, the applicant is proposing a new permanent sign face to be installed on the existing posts at the property's corner. The sign is proposed to be approximately 25 square feet in size and will be consistent with the guidelines. And finally, the fence. So the applicant's proposing to fence the front yard. There'd be 2 gates as well. They have provided the commission with 2 options for your consideration. One would be a wood fence constructed to mimic the balcony railing with wrought iron gates. The other would be a wrought iron fence with wrought iron gates. And staff finds both alternatives to be consistent with the guidelines. I would note wood fences are more common in the area, but there are also examples of wrought iron fences as well. With that, I'm available for questions, and the applicant's also here.
Thank you, Heather. Great staff report. Any questions of Heather?
Heather.
Or the applicant?
How is, Michelle Schmitter for the record, how is the transom being treated? Because the photo, the proposed kind of looks odd.
I think that's an example that just happens to have a different transom over it.
My understanding
Okay.
from the application material, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, is the transom would remain. The only thing that's being replaced is the door. The example that's provided is just that. It's just another door with a transom.
Okay, oh,
Is the applicant here?
You need to sign in and state your name for the record.
My name is Jeanette Bloom. I am the representative for the owner who is next to me.
I'm Jan Marson. Thank you for taking a look at this and for your time.
Thank you, Jan. They need to sign in too, Heather? Okay, great. Go ahead, Lou.
So I just had a question about how you came about choosing this door style and the light styles from, and what you were thinking about that.
Well, I read the guidelines, and the guidelines said that doors in the historic district were traditionally paneled doors. And we wanted a door that would provide more privacy than the current door. So we were trying to mimic the current door, but in a more secure manner with a little more wood on it. And as far as the light, I researched before the application went in, and since staff said they didn't think the light was very appropriate, I cannot find any example of light fixtures from 1906. I think the current fixture, the carriage lights, are from a prior era. This house, no doubt, was built with only electric. It never had gas. And I'm not sure where the light fixture was originally, cannot find a picture of this building. But we did bring a sample of the light fixture. First of all, we wanted to make sure we liked the light fixture. So, I contacted Wayfair, we got it out. Oh, Dana, would you like to lift up? This is Dana Richards, she's our Vanna White. Would you like to lift up the fixture? So, I think the fixture looks a little bit better in person. The glass is wavy. It's supposed to mimic the windows, the wavy glass in the windows. And the windows, as far as we can tell, are original, at least on the first floor and the second floor. So they do have the wavy glass. I think in this style of building, it's a very square building and it lacks ornamentation, except for perhaps some of the concrete blocks had some design to them. But otherwise, it's basically a cinder block building with a porch and a balcony and a dormer. So I think that these lights that are on there now are too fancy. So we were trying to find something very simple. And I look at the light fixtures as kind of like the earrings on this building. There's no other jewelry. There's nothing. And I think it was the late Victorian, they were trying to get rid of all the gingerbread. So it's very, very, very plain. But the research I did, and trust me, I am no expert on buildings, is I think this could probably be classified as some sort of a shingle-style building from the late Victorian era. And most of them were from New England. And Frank Norcross's dad was from Maine. And this style started in Maine. And his dad had a sawmill. So I think that might be where the shingles came from. Why it was made from concrete block, I'm not sure. It's probably to mimic Abraham Curry's building, but they probably couldn't spring for the stone, or maybe it wasn't available in 1906. I thought it was sandstone at first. So we were wanting to clean it. I didn't want to touch it if it was sandstone. Now that I know it's concrete, we would probably not power wash it, but scrub it down. So I might think it's got a few decades of dirt on it. But so that's where we came up with the design. Plus, we looked through books and books and books, and Jan and I picked the same door out of the books.
I guess I was moving more towards the craftsman style of doors, so more of a horizontal windows that were above the handles, maybe the 3/4, just the windows a light above the 3/4 of the door, upper third, with some detailing on the door. Did you look at craftsman style at all?
I think craftsman style is too ornate, just the little bit I know about it. I think this building, the less ornate, the better, is my feeling about this building.
That craftsman style was a reaction to the ornamentation of the Victorian era. So you would be able to find some streamlined doors, light fixtures, things like that. So you might want to take a look. This door looks like it's from the 1970s to me. So it's kind of throwing off the building. So when you look at the front of the building, it's a great building. I walk around the street and I pass it all the time. And if I don't know, I don't feel good about those doors. Busted in on your comment.
Well, the panels that are there right now, the reason why we looked at something was because of the kids and the families that are in there. They're scared and freaked out. We got like, inside we have shades, some window coverings. And so when we're looking at doors, though that seemed kind of exposing. And so that's why we went with something covered up, but still having light. You still can see the stairs. So like if you look up, you still have that effect.
You would with a craftsman style too that was more, I mean, the windows wouldn't be any lower than like the two top rows of this window. They would be up above that, so people wouldn't be able to just look into the building particularly, but they would, and it would be more of a solid door down below. So just,
We understand your desire to replace. That's not a problem. These doors are, yeah, I understand. And then if you found the right door, then maybe you don't need to put the storm door up.
I had a question about
I had-
that
oh,
since.
sorry.
Just for the storm door, because it's on the porch, so usually storm doors are on sides of the building that receive a lot of weather, and this is on the east side that, and protected, so we didn't understand why that was necessary.
So the other thing, what we were thinking about with the storm door, or like we looked at like a lot of pictures where those porches were screened in. So maybe that would be another approach, having that screened in, and maybe the storm door would be more on the porch. But that's all in the future. It was mostly getting this door, a plan for that, because we already know we can change the doorknob, I believe.
Right. We have no doorknob at the moment. It's a problem. It has a double deadbolt and it's causing us many, many headaches. But I think tomorrow we're going to change out the deadbolt anyway to deal with that problem. But the problem with the double deadbolt, we have to leave the door unlocked. And when we have children and their families there, we have the mailman comes in, FedEx comes in, and anyone off the street could come in, especially somebody who might be involved with the family that we do not want in the building. So I think what Jan's talking about, and I did talk to one of the fence guys about trying to get some sort of a gate or a door at the top of the stairs so the porch would be more secure. And his attitude was, the commission will never approve it. He didn't even want to give me a bid. He goes, and besides, he just crawls through the windows on either side of the door. It wouldn't do you any good. So, since we spent about 2 years on the interior, and we're happy with the interior. So now we've gone to the exterior. And we would have been before you in July, but when we got the proposal for the fence, the sprinkler guy showed up and he goes, they're going to destroy my sprinklers if you put a fence up. So I said, okay, we got to wait. We have to figure out what to do. We have to move the sprinklers to put it in. So, yeah, I think, we're open to work with somebody on it. We're not experts. We've been working with a designer, but her light fixture was even more modern than the one we proposed. One of the challenges we had was to find a light fixture in 3 sizes that are appropriate size. So we found this one is 25 inches for the front door, 20 inches for the balcony, and 16 inches for the back door. So, I mean, that's another challenge too. I know the dark sky compliant. This building, I don't think, unless we put spotlights straight out, it's so far back from Division Street. We have Allison McKenzie Law Firm on one side, and we have Mark Twain's brother on the other side. Across the street's a 1950 brick house and an apartment building. So we don't have, well, I think it's quite a unique house, but we don't really have a lot of neighbors that it would interfere with in any case. But we're not proposing to have lights that are real bright. We want them to be enough light to make it safe and whatever looks good on the building.
bound by the dark sky requirement when we're replacing existing fixtures?
For commercial properties, yes.
That being RO, is that considered commercial property? It's
Yes.
both, isn't it?
It is considered commercial property.
So even in a historic district?
Yes. I believe they can find fixtures that would work,
Yeah.
though.
Okay.
I mean, I just did a quick Google search before I made the recommended condition, so.
Don, did you have a?
Just a couple comments. You know, that building to me is an outstanding piece of work for the period of time. And we have to understand that concrete block in those days wasn't like today. We didn't go down and buy it. That was pretty revolutionary construction in those days. And that's part of the historical significance of that. I think the building itself and the way they put the fenestrations to the building and the detailing is done quite well. I do take exception, unfortunately, with the door that you pick because I think the door takes away from the building. I think the door is a little too ornamental. If we were looking at a craftsman style, you could easily achieve that with the lights at the top where a person's eyes can't come through, and you can almost use a flat planked beveled door instead of one with ornamentation on it. And the light fixtures, I don't particularly care for a lot of fixtures from 1910, you know. They were fairly new. They were trying to imitate an oil lamp. You know, that's what they were trying to do in those days. It wasn't, but just because I don't like some of the fixtures from the 1900s, that's not my call here. We're trying to preserve the historic nature of that building. And your light fixtures, which I really like, don't work on that building. So, and I might as well hit the last one. Before I don't want to sit up here and give you recommendations for a storm door. One of the problems I have on this board a lot of times is we really care about windows and how they're treated, but then we'll see somebody come along after we're done and put an aluminum storm door on it or window, and it's like, why did we go to all that effort? So I can understand why you might want to do that, but I'd want to see what your designer or you would want to put on that door. So sorry to say I don't agree with either the door or the light fixture.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say, you know, I guess posting pictures on Facebook's kind of cool. And this one picture with the lady in the middle, I can see where I get my good looks from. It's my mother. So, you know, and the doors, you know, in that looks like they could have been replaced from the other doors that are on there now. These could have been a replacement. But you're talking about secure doors that lock all the time, that you can't see through, to protect whatever's inside. And I see a steel screen safety door to go on the outside, and I see a fence going up. What? I don't understand. You probably know I live 3 blocks away. I don't know why we need such high security in our neighborhood all of a sudden. Who were you guys attracting that needs to be more security? Because I don't know what else is going to happen with the rest of the neighborhood.
So the need for the high security is the group that we're serving. These are kids that have been victims of crime. And so that's where the forensic interviews, the medical, and so many times there is law enforcement. It is a law enforcement activity. That's the only way you even get an appointment there. But sometimes the perpetrators, they know where this place is, and they're, you know, like I'm a little scared. So that's why the need for the security, and that these people are trauma victims, and the parents are there. They're having the worst days of their life. So that's why. So it isn't really the neighborhood. We haven't had problems in the neighborhood. We have, you know, done just fine
I'm not talking
there.
about having problems in the neighborhood. We don't. But if the people that are being attracted to your facility, I know you're trying to help kids and they've been disadvantaged. 3 blocks away is Lennox, who's 3. Dorothy's 5. Gisella's 6. Annabelle's 8. Oliver's 11. They're there all the time. And if people are coming to your facility to do whatever, maybe for what the high security is and everything else, and sheriff protection and protecting whatever's inside and whatever you guys do, maybe this isn't the best spot. It's just kind of attracting, do I need to put cameras up? Do I need to put storm doors on? It's a little facetious, I'm not gonna do that, but what are we trying to attract here if you guys are so worried about a door that's locked constantly? FedEx, UPS can't come in. I have over probably 30 people come into my office, which is another 4 blocks away, every day. We have a police department, we have security, we have a safe neighborhood. I'm just kind of concerned if you need these doors for security, for people breaking in or doing something nefarious, and then having a storm door on that, and then also having a new fence that's there to try to help another barrier. I put a fence up for a dog, but that's where I'm kind of concerned. And then when I go with these doors, yeah, I don't like the doors. The light fixtures are very contemporary. I think that ruins the era of the building, and I think Don's right. They were to mimic gas lights or carriage lights or kerosene lights on that. They look very contemporary, and I think something that would be more fitting to the period of the house for the doors would be more appropriate. And the only thing that the thing about your fence, and I ran into this at my office, even though my fence is 18 inches tall, but it's going to block a lot of the view of your sign that you're proposing. Because I see the first fence thing is 48 inches high, and it looks like your fence is about 30 inches low at the bottom. So those are just a few of the things I can think of right now.
Well, let me address the fence. So the house is on Division Street, which is very busy, and it has a, and it has a bus. But being 2 blocks away, you don't have the bus running by your house. And so when a child, generally the children that come here have been abused by a family member, and the non-abusing parent will bring them to this facility at the request of the police department or the sheriff's office. And they'll bring all the other kids with them. So what we're trying to do is not necessarily, we're not worried about somebody harming them, but if they go out on the front yard, then they're on Division Street without a fence. We'd like to be able to use the porch or let the children use the porch, but we can't let them on the porch unless we have some way to contain them, because I think you mentioned all those children that live in the neighborhood. Yeah, they'll run out because that's what kids do. So we're trying to protect the families that are coming in there. And we've started using the building. We had our grand opening August 11th, and so far everyone's just stayed inside. We've had babies, et cetera. We have had no issues except the front door. We would like to lock it so that the people don't come in when we're in the middle of a very sensitive conversation with people who have been severely traumatized. That we're not as concerned with strangers or the other family members coming in. They could, but most of it is to protect the other kids that are going to come with the family.
So I get the fence for containment, sure. You don't want them running out the street. But when you're in session, wouldn't you want the doors locked anyway whenever you do it, and a note on the door directing people, we're in session, UPS, FedEx, drop off at the back corner, something like that. It just seems like it's making it, I don't want to say penitentiary style, but it's making it seem like more of, I guess, with the CMU block or however they made that, it's almost like a fortress. And the doors, that I think there's workarounds than the doors and keeping people safe. If you're meeting with people right behind those doors, I'd rather have them in a meeting room myself.
Well, there are meeting rooms. I'm sure you've been in the building. So, it's a typical there's a front entry, and then we have the families to one side, the reception area, and then back where the kitchen is where the kids will be interviewed. And then, since these interviews are conducted by one person, the idea behind a child advocacy center is to not re-traumatize the child victims by the process to try to convict the perpetrator of the crime.
I don't think we need to get into a long discussion about what they do or anything else. Just looking at the current front door, we're talking about Craftsman doors. They often had side lights, and the way that front door with the transom is set right now, you could easily put frosted side lights and a single front door, Craftsman style front door in that space.
I don't disagree.
And that might, that would solve your double doors, your security issue there. And we kind of bring back more of that Craftsman design. It's a very simple panel door with two or three lights over the top. And that might work a whole lot better than the double doors anyway. And in terms of the light fixtures, it's a nice modern light. If I had a house built recently, I'd love to have those as porch lights. There are a lot of Craftsman style lights that would be more complementary to this building than the old style gas light or the modern one. Do we want to move on and talk about the sign? Any issues with that?
I think it meets our specifications for signage. And I think the fence, either wrought iron or wood picket fences, also meets our guidelines. So either one of those would be fine. And I understand the need for a fence around a yard on a busy street, so I don't think that's anything to be off-putting.
Michelle Schmitter for the record. I would prefer if we went with a simpler fence. I understand why you were picking the wood one to match the upstairs, but let's let that be a significant feature of that building and maybe do the metal fence that you proposed.
I agree.
I agree with the
Yeah.
fence. I think the wrought iron is a better selection. I also, I don't have a problem with the sign. The fence height, I think as long as they stay within the standards of the district, we're good with that. I don't either like the front door. I like the idea of a single with the side lights, frosted glass, anything like that. You have a lot more choices with the single door. Even the way that there's all kinds of shapes. That this one has a lot of cubits to it as far as the glass, but if you look really close at some of these old photos, there are a couple of whoop-de-doos in the doors. They have a couple of scrolls in some of them, so that gives you a little shape to play with. But otherwise, I don't like the idea of a screen door on the front. That needs to be a face. That needs to be the face of our community. Any other door on any other side would be fine, but not the front entry doors. I think that would get self-solved, though, if you go to a single front door, because that could be locked down so much easier.
Yeah, I agree. The wrought iron fence is also going to give you a little more visibility for the sign. It's not as heavy. The heavier fence is going to kind of pull you away from the building. So I agree with that too. In terms of making the front porch a screen porch, your contractor was right. I don't think we'd approve that. That was always an open porch. It was designed as an open porch, and that's probably how it should stay. Any other questions or comments on this item? Go ahead, Jen.
No, I like that idea with the single door side lights. It would be more fitting. The light fixtures, I'm not real red hot. And the only thing I'd ask on the metal fence, that it's 100% metal. See, metal fences go up all the time and they'll put plastic finials on them. The wrinkle, they snuck some plastic finials on everything, and it doesn't look quite as good. So that would be my recommendation for the fence as well.
I think the design they have, Jed, on the post, the finials on the post.
Yeah, just to make sure.
Yeah, those look pretty plain, so I think we're probably okay there. Are you guys okay with going with storm light or side lights and a single door?
We're on it.
Can we circulate that selection? What's being proposed?
I have a suggested condition, but I don't know if you want to take public comment first.
Take public comment first. Is there any public comment on this item? Hearing none. Heather?
Okay, so I'm hearing a couple additional conditions based on the conversation. So I would recommend condition number 7, which would be very similar to what I presented in condition 5 for the light. Condition number 7 would be for the door, and if you want to make it really specific to a single door with 2 side lights, craftsman style, we can do that. But as I have it drafted now, it says, prior to the applicant replacing the door, the applicant shall submit a new Historic Resource Commission application, including specifications for the door. The door shall be of a design which is appropriate for the era of the house. The application will be reviewed by the HRC chair and may be approved administratively. And then the other condition I'm hearing is for the fence specifically. And I would recommend condition 8 be the fence shall be the wrought iron option as presented with metal finials.
Sounds great, Heather. Whoever makes the motion, I think we can just refer to Heather's comments for conditions 7 and 8. And we'll get into the record that way. Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll stab at it. I move to approve HRC 2025-0332, excluding the wrought iron storm door, based on the findings and subject to the conditions, including the conditions 7 and 8 added by Heather, of approval included in the staff report, Carson City Historic Guidelines, District Guidelines, and consistent with the Historic Resource Commission policies.
Motion, do I have a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I didn't get who seconded.
Luann,
Okay, thank you.
thank you guys very much for your time.
At the risk of trying your patience, I didn't quite understand do we have to resubmit for the next meeting, the November meeting? Is that the
No,
condition?
you can resubmit to community development, and after that, we can do an administrative approval. So they'll send it to the commissioner or vice commissioner. We can look it over and approve there.
You don't have to do the whole packet again, just
Yeah,
the specifications for the door.
just the
and
specifications for the
light.
door and the lights, and,
That's all.
yeah.
So it's-
Heather's very helpful, plus she puts up with all my annoying questions.
Next item is 5B, HRC-2025-0334 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request by the First United Methodist Church applicant to demolish a garage on property zoned residential office RO located at 212 North Division Street. Assessor's parcel number APN 003-202-04. Heather.
Heather Ferris again for the record. The subject property is the location of the Kelly Schultz house built in 1874. The 1980 survey notes a small shiplap structure located near the rear of the lot and appears to be a small garage or carriage house. According to the assessor's information, this structure was also constructed in 1874, and the West Side Historic District nomination notes the garage as a contributing building. The applicant is requesting approval to demolish and remove the garage structure due to the poor condition and potential for uncontrolled collapse. Per Municipal Code 1806075, demolition of a historic place or cultural resource in a historic district may be approved by the HRC if it is determined to be a public health or safety hazard and the repair and stabilization of the structure is not feasible as determined by a professional with demonstrated experience in historic preservation and rehabilitation projects, or the structure does not meet the National Register of Significance criteria. The applicant has provided an opinion from Rob Lauder, a local engineer, regarding the condition of the building and the feasibility and stabilization or repair. As noted in his report, Mr. Lauder concluded that the structure should be demolished due to its poor condition. He also noted the structure is immediately adjacent to the playground for the preschool, which is on site, and the condition of the structure makes it a potentially dangerous situation for the children. Given this opinion and with the incorporation of the conditions of approval, the applicant's, staff feels the applicant's proposal can be found to be consistent with municipal code. I'm available for questions, and I believe Rob is also here.
Thank you, Heather. Commission members, questions? Comments?
Michelle Schmidt for the record, isn't there a fence that goes all around the playground so that this building, if it does collapse, wouldn't necessarily injure anyone? I'd be more worried about the chimneys, but we've fixed that.
I believe, and I don't think I have a picture of it here, it might be in the packet. I believe there is, the rear of it is accessible from the playground.
No, what the, when they have the preschool small blessings in the front, those are the older kids. And then in the very back, the house that faces Minnesota Street, those are for the really littles until they graduate. But it's open all in between there. You can navigate, I could navigate this almost through there.
Page 74 of the packet shows how it's accessible from the playground.
Left of that, around the corner, is the south side of the building, and that, if that fell down away from the building, it would fall right into the playground. Does that clarify things enough?
The back in this photo, this is what, that looks good. I'm not seeing a lot of bowing. In the front, you see it a lot more.
So for a demolition approval, we usually like to have a drawing or a sketch or a plan for what's going to replace that building. And since it's such an early building, 1874, it's difficult to imagine a different type of building there. So what do you have in mind to replace that? I would be interested in your idea.
Oh, okay. Good, okay. New technology. My name is Bill French. I'm the current chair for the Board of Trustees for the Methodist Church. The primary purpose for the building right now is purely storage. The living nativity that we do every December, all the props for that are stored in the building. The storage can be found in a lot of other places within our campus. Really what we'd probably be looking at doing is if we're approved to take the building down, is to bring a fence across to contain so the children can be in the playground area. And possibly, as you can see in the bottom left picture, there is a small storage building there for the preschool. We might duplicate something like that to have a small storage area there for anything that we can't fit inside the church area.
Have you explored rehabilitating the building?
Yes, ma'am, we have. The building does not have a foundation. It's built on dirt. Realistically, looking at the building and looking at how you would rehabilitate it, once you start taking off any boards from the outside of it, it's probably going to collapse right then. Last year, we had all of the rest of the buildings for on the church campus re-roofed. This building did not get re-roofed because the builder or the roofer would not go on top of it.
Heather, we had a historic structures report done for the Methodist Church back in, I want to say the 90s. Have you seen that? Or I'm just wondering if this building was included in that report. I know the rectory, the church and the rectory were.
I did not see that, but I did see the nomination, and it is a contributing building in the nomination.
Has there been any maintenance on the building over the years that you're aware of?
I wanted to make a couple of comments. This is Rob Lauder again. I was a member of the church back in the 90s, and I still am. And I think the report you're talking about was by Mel Green, and to the best of my recollection, his report was confined to the sanctuary building.
I'm pretty sure the rectory was too, because we did the Episcopal rectory and the Methodist were, I think they were both, it was the buildings on a lot, but
Yeah,
it's,
okay.
It's, what I was looking for is just some reference to his recommendations on what we could have done, what should be done to retain this building, and without seeing the report, it's kind of a moot point right now.
Okay, what was the other question? It was kind of a two-part question.
If any maintenance has been done on it.
Oh, the only maintenance that's been done on the building has been to repaint it, because the paint was peeling, and it was a health hazard for the preschool, and so we repainted the sides that were open to the children.
Any other questions or comments?
I've got the report on my computer. I mean, we can pull it up really quick, but it's contributes to the original building. And when they came to us about doing the roof, and we were told how the chimneys were so terrible, and the recommendation was to maybe get them repointed and everything. And well, apparently the white paint that they did instead is not staying on there. We also gave them permission to take down the one dangerous chimney that's on the Proctor Street side, and that's still there. We talk about this building leaning, Jack's Bar is leaning from ground to floor 14 inches, is that what it is, 17 inches? I could see where if that was rehabilitated or a structure was put on the inside, so it was assured that not to fall over because it's contributing. Those doors are amazing. They could probably get rid of the trailer of materials and that other small shed that's there. Because of this, another small shed like that, I don't think is gonna enhance the property. But I think that, you know, even if we gave them permission to tear down that structure, to rebuild it with shiplap and doors that emulate those same doors, I mean, I think this is significant. It's not like the tin shed in my yard, the one next to Darren's yard, you know, the one in this other picture I gave you that got torn down. This is more significant of a building, and I'm sure it was a carriage house. They probably had horses in the back of it too, who knows? But, you know, at least the front view of that to Proctor Street, I think should be, at least that should be retained. I think it's a contributing element in itself to the district and the property.
Jed brings up a good point. In the past, we really don't like to do demolitions without knowing what's going to replace it. And we don't want, a lot of that was for larger properties where you end up with a big vacant lot that's just gonna be a nuisance and have weeds and things like that. It looks to me like the exterior materials of this building could be salvaged and you could rebuild it relatively easy. You could pour a slab in there and reframe it, put those materials or like materials back on. And I mean, the front doors are kind of a significant element of that. I'm not sure what the, or if the windows are still there, they're just boarded up, but would you guys be amenable to reconstructing it, or you just really want to get rid of it?
Since most of the building encompasses a boundary for the playground, it'd be quite difficult to have the preschool playground continue to be there while continuing to work on the building, on reconstruction for the building.
You're gonna have the same issue when you tear it down unless you do it quickly on a Saturday night.
I think looking at the condition of the building, after everything comes out of it, the demolition would be a pretty quick action.
That is a good
I
question.
make a comment, Mike. I agree with the front facade is really what we're talking about. The building itself, I'm not hooked on it. We could rebuild it, but then all of it's behind the skin. I don't have any problem with replacing it with something in kind and trying to reuse those doors and stay with the same architecture of a replacement structure. That would be acceptable to me. You could go either way with mine. I just want to see that same front elevation on the street. That's the important thing. We've kind of rocked and rolled with this subject over the years. There's lots of these garages throughout the neighborhood. We've used words like demolition by neglect as a big thing that people were into. This is probably fits right into something like that. But the reality is, with no floor, you could go and pour a slab, you could do all these things, but it's all going to be new, artificial. When we're doing rehabilitation, one of the arguments we always get into is, yes, we can we can save the pillar post, but we can do it with plastic. So what are you actually saving? I mean, I'd rather see it rebuilt, but with the same architecture and possibly the same front. You've reuse the good siding in the front face only and try to redo the doors, or reuse the doors. One other comment. I do agree, before we vote to allow any of this, I still think we should have something submitted showing us what the replacement would be, even if that's going to be garden or flat slab.
One question, the windows that are covered, are there still windows in place? Are there still a sash inside, or are those gone?
The windows on the front are largely there, I believe. Of the 12 windows, 10 of them still exist. 2 of them are cracked and broken and out.
So those could be salvaged?
The doors probably could be salvaged, yes. And Rob and I were just discussing that if we did put a slab and a replacement storage shed there, that it may be possible to pull the doors off and the front facade and then put that up against a possible replacement storage shed, yes.
I don't know how the rest of the board agrees. When we do the front like that, I think the massing is important with the front of it. And with what he just mentioned with those front doors, if you built a new building and put molding on it and had those doors affixed to the building where the entrance is in between the old rectory building and the side of it, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, because you would look at it from the street and not knowing if the doors worked or not, they would still be there and retained in that front portion. And I think there's enough shiplap in there that they could replace it, or you could even do new pine shiplap. You know, and just going back to Rob's other comment, when we look at building something inside that's not original, either is the Nevada State Capitol building or Jack's Bar. They do it all the time, but we're more worried about the outside facade, not color, but the facade and how it contributes to the district. I mean, even the windows on the side that are boarded up, I mean, you don't really even notice them. So if that was sided up, that would be fine in my mind. But I think that front part, and you could even shorten up the building to some extent. But I think I agree that some sort of plan we should look at so there's not an unintended consequence.
That was Rob Lauder again. That was one of the questions in my mind about your comments about the massing, et cetera, was would you require that we maintain that same ridge height, or can we lower that to, you know, so that we have a more standard building with, say, an 8-foot top plate on the walls, because that's obviously, you know, unusual construction.
Well, it's an 1874 building, so that's why. So that's sort of where we're at here at the historic, on the board, because we're trying to retain the 1874 elements to go along with a house that's 1874, rather than tearing it down and building a tough shed, because that's modern. What we're trying to do is retain as much of the original materials and look of that time period. So I think it would need to be that height, and it could be a little shorter. It'd be nice if you could reuse the windows that are on the building and still in the building, and the panel door on the side. Those are the elements that you can use. Those are good elements that are still intact, more or less. You could salvage those, remove the front, take down some siding, rebuild a building on a concrete slab, and then put that material back in the building. Essentially have the same building that you have now, only slightly shorter and some newer structural material on the inside.
Could you be more clear about which windows you're talking about perpetuating? Because there's the double doors in the front are obviously there. If you took a close look at them, you can see that their frames are in horrible condition. You know, so that, anyway, that's number one. And then the right hand, or call it the east wall of the building, where you can see that basketball hoop, it looks like there used to be a window there. And I guess I'm hearing different things from different board members about whether it would be required to perpetuate that or restore it or not. But also what you can't see in this picture is that there's another man door at the northeast corner that has been basically blocked off. So I guess the church would want to get some clarity from the board about what exactly do we need to replace and what don't we have to replace.
I think we're talking about on the west wall, it looks like there's 2 boarded up windows.
You're looking the wrong way. The picture we're looking at is the east face of the building. The west face doesn't have any windows at all.
There's no windows by the trailer?
No.
There's 2 boarded up areas.
And those are on the east face of the building.
That's,
No.
okay, the Minnesota side of the building, Minnesota street side of the building? Or
The Minnesota street side has no windows or doors.
Well, whatever side that is with the trailer on it, it has 2 windows in it that are boarded up. The other side has the man door and a window with a basketball hoop.
Right.
The way I see it. I don't see a picture of, well, we do have one on the back. If you maybe you could show that one where the playground is.
That's in the packet.
Right.
I don't have all of them in the,
We had it up a minute ago at the
Yeah,
playground.
Rob's recollection is obviously more detailed
74.
than mine.
Well,
The,
see right here, there's a boarded up window right there.
Yeah.
There's a boarded up window right there. There's a door, no, that's, might be a door, but this is the other side, and there's the basketball hoop. Basketball hoop's not on this side.
So when I asked you about the current, how the condition of those windows, you said that they were pretty intact, that the sash was still there, they're just boarded up. Is that true?
I think I misunderstood your question there, ma'am. The only windows that I'm aware of that are intact are the ones on the front of the building facing Proctor Street,
okay, and the door.
on the door itself, yes. And the doors are not usable. The door you're seeing on the, what is it, the south side facing Division Street is the only door access into the building. But again,
Let me
I
add a
would,
comment.
I would like to just reiterate our primary concern with this building is safety of the kids that are in the playground. If you're around the building when we're having high winds, the building moves. I'm really concerned if we get a heavy snow load on it this winter that will come in, the building won't be there. But, safety of the kids that are there in the playground is paramount with this.
Can I add one more thing, Mike?
Sure.
I tend to agree with Jed. I don't see the purpose of necessarily requiring those doors to be functional or operable. As long as they're there, they could be walled off from the back. We do that all the time. I think the main purpose we're trying to get at is if there are windows in those holes that are still there and can be salvaged, that view right there probably is the most important one. If one of those windows and those doors were still on the facade, in my mind, I'm not real picky about if it's the original wood rotting structure behind it or if we replace it to mimic the same height and shape.
Yeah, it seems to me that we could reconstruct that old carriage house, maybe half the length, with the same height. And you could probably get rid of the little storage shed next to it and have just as much. Preserve some storage in the old carriage shed, get rid of the little one and transfer materials into that. But I think we just hate to see a building that really does contribute to the overall setting of the old house and everything else be torn down just because it's been neglected for the last 100 years. And that's kind of why I brought up Mel Green's thing, is because there were specific actions in there to remedy some things that were falling apart and how to increase the longevity of the whole property. So I think rebuilding at least a portion of that is a reasonable alternative, and it's something that, if you can't do it right away, you could probably go in and shore that thing up so it's not collapse isn't imminent. Putting some cross bracing in there and firming it up, probably make it last a few more winters until you can afford doing a partial replacement. Any other?
Just so I'm clear, when we talk about the doors, we're talking about the two carriage doors, the large doors that are pointed north or to Proctor Street. Don't care what the direction is, but that's to Proctor Street. It looks like the side that, not the basketball hoop side, the other side that faces, if that other building wasn't in between there, would face Minnesota Street. It appears that there's two windows in there that are boarded up.
Yes.
So then when we go to the other side, which points to the older building, you have a man door to the back, which would be towards the Methodist church, and a man door towards the front, towards the Episcopalian church. And where the basketball hoop, there's probably a boarded up window underneath there. Is that, we're all there? So I think what I was talking about, the same elevation towards Proctor Street with those doors affixed to the new construction, however it is. And I would like to see the two man doors retained towards the rectory building. But we don't need the windows, it's a storage unit, but to save what we can on that building, it's kind of like the house at 706 North Division Street, where the only thing left is the two bay windows before GI Consultants went in there. This board was able to save that as one of the oldest buildings. And I think that our major concern is that one front facade towards Proctor Street. Luann's asking if the windows can be salvaged, but the element of the two doors and that front facade, I think, is the most important thing to us, if I'm not mistaken.
I agree with that, but I really think the whole thing should be retained. If we're going to go to all the trouble of trying to retain the front portion, I mean, how are we going to cut this building in half without it collapsing? I mean,
I think it has to be dismantled and rebuilt. I think that, if you're going to redo it, that's the only way to do it.
we could,
The other, I mean, if that's the case, Michelle, then how do we remedy if we leave the building, how do we remedy the safety
I
issues?
don't know. Darren's going to move it.
Well,
Darren, you want another,
Do you want to come up?
I went and looked at that. There's no way to move it. It's like he said, there's no foundation, this one.
I've
I would think
rehabbed
the only
carriage
way to-
houses before.
Oh, yeah, but I think this particular one, you'd almost have to dismantle and rebuild. You could add stuff to the inside, a new skeletal frame. That would be probably the only process.
that might actually be easier than trying to tear it all down. It's just add a skeleton frame inside. It's real similar to what they did at the Bank Saloon. I mean, that
Well, we
wall
do it-
still leans, but there's.
We do it these days every day. The new thing is barndemoniums. And we put a metal skin structure up and build a house with inside of it. Essentially all wood, same as you would a new house, but it's got a standing metal skin that's a freestanding structure outside of that. This would be similar in nature to that if you were to go that route.
Are there any other commission member questions or
So-
comments, Michelle?
So are we asking them to come back to us with a plan?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just a reminder, we need to do public comment as well. But based on the conversation that you're having, I'm wondering if it would be best to have them come back with a plan now that they've heard what your concerns are. They can maybe present what the best option they feel is, or maybe they have a couple of options. And then you guys can consider whether or not demolition's appropriate or if they're able to rehabilitate the building.
Yeah, I kind of sense that the commission would like to see something in its place. And if there is something, it should kind of mimic the old. I don't think we would approve just tearing it down. So, is there any public comment? Hearing none, do we want a motion or do we just want to continue this?
We can continue it to the next meeting, which is, I think, November 5th.
November?
If that's going to provide the applicant sufficient time to pull together some alternatives for you.
That acceptable? And
Yes.
as chairman, I'd be happy to work with you guys too. If you want to kick some ideas to me and get some feedback, we can
And,
help that along.
and We also have all experience reworking on windows and sagging doors and things like that. So we look at the building and think it's in really good shape, those front doors, because we've seen much worse and worked on them and brought them back. So from our perspective, it's an 1874 building that has intact elements, and we would like to see those retained. And even though it's not working for you, it does have a lot of character defining features that go along with the rectory building, and it was their carriage house. So it needs to be given its due, I think.
Rob Lauder again. I just want to comment that all these things cost money, and we're part of our process knowing that what the board's concern is about mimicking the existing structure. We're going to need to go back to the church and talk to them about what the different options might cost, and that's obviously going to enter into our consideration of what we think the best thing for us to do is. Tempered, of course, by the fact that we've got what is an unsafe structure to a certain extent, as I said in my report.
Can you think of any way to minimize the safety factor there, Rob? I mean, would cross bracing or something inside of it help to keep it together?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is that as soon as we start doing things, and when I say doing things, as soon as we start proposing work that's going to require a building permit, kind of the gloves come off, and the building department is going to say, unless you're going to give us something that comes up to 2018 International Building Code, we don't even want to talk about it. So I understand what you're saying, and I'm going to say to a limited extent, yeah, we can do that but in terms of, and I guess all I can say is we'll have to say what would be the minimum that we could do that could be done under the code, and that's what we can offer.
Heather, does the building department have to get involved if they're going in with 2x4 bracing and just cross bracing things and stabilizing it? Would they need a permit for that?
I think that I would recommend that they contact the building division to find out if that's required. I don't believe so, but I don't want to hang my hat on that.
Yeah, my experience in the past has been that whenever I wanted to do something structural to a building, there's only one answer as far as they're concerned.
From my understanding, if it's less than 200 square feet, or is it 240 square feet now, that you don't need a permit.
I believe it's 200.
That's correct, and the building is 360 square feet.
Okay, that answers that question. And just, the building's been painted. I've been cruising by there in a wheelchair just about every day for the last 3 years. And Annabelle's now 8, and she started going there at 2. I haven't seen any significant leanings. People are worried about a building falling over, and trees aren't maintained in the area. They're breaking all the time. I think that just having a plan, and I hate having the plan. If we do nothing, why do we need to come up with a plan? Well, you've done nothing, and that's a choice. Doing nothing is a choice. But from what this looks like, we were also told when they re-roofed that those chimneys were a liability and they were going to come down. How many years has it been? And we allowed them to take one down, and it hasn't happened. And to Don's credit, money isn't in our purview. Any of us that own an old home have a lot of money into it, and a lot more than you can even imagine.
Any other comments? Another option for public comments.
We do need a motion for the continuance, though.
Yeah. I'll
So moved.
Entertain a motion.
So moved for a continuance?
I second the motion.
To a date specific of November 5th, 2025.
Jed.
Ted? Date specific?
Yes.
A motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved unanimously.
Thank you, commissioners.
Next item is HRC 2025-0345 for discussion only. Discussion regarding a possible zoning text amendment to allow for the use of the same setbacks when relocating a building within the historic district. Heather?
Heather Ferris again for the record. So I wanted to give the commission the ability to discuss this prior to taking action on the next item. As you recall, I'm sure at the July 2nd, 2025 meeting, the commission considered a request to demolish a garage at 202 South Nevada. At that meeting, a nearby property owner, Darren Berger, came forward to discuss the possibility of moving the building to his property. However, Mr. Berger indicated the need to explore options for reduced setbacks with the planning division. After deliberating, the commission did vote to continue that item for 202 South Nevada to this meeting to give the applicant and the neighboring property owner the ability to discuss the possibility of moving the building, as well as for Mr. Berger to discuss opportunities for reduced setbacks with staff. During the meeting, we briefly discussed a variance. However, as I indicated at that meeting and in your memo, staff does not believe a variance is the appropriate tool, as it's unclear how we can meet the variance findings. But a variance is the only option currently in the code to reduce setbacks. So staff did suggest to Mr. Berger that he may want to request a zoning text amendment that would allow for the use of the same setbacks when relocating a structure from one property to another within the district. So it would essentially allow for the setbacks to be transferred from one property to the other. Again, this would not be specific to any one property. This would apply, if we move forward with a text amendment, it would apply to all properties within the district, and we would likely have some parameters with that. What those are right now, we don't know. If you guys have ideas, that would be great. That's kind of the purpose of this, and then also to see if Darren wants to move forward with a text amendment. So it's before you for discussion only. We don't have any staff doesn't have any suggested language at this time. I'm not even sure at this time exactly where in the code we would put it, but that can all be worked out once we know that Darren wants to move forward with the amendment.
I'd really like the idea, and it'd be interesting to see if other historic districts have similar amendments. I mean, it's the layout of historic properties really didn't pay much attention to setbacks. It was, you had your lot and you put things on it, and it's kind of a defining characteristic of districts. So I think it'd be great to pursue it and see if it's going to help others somewhere down the line, I think. Commission members?
I got a question for you, Heather. If you were going to go forward with this would then be part of the variance, like you were saying?
No, it would be essentially an exception. The way I envision it is it would be an exception in the code for historic properties that meet certain parameters.
I would think that one of the stipulations probably ought to be notification of adjacent parcel owners. One thing to move your building, but if adjacent property owner might be adverse to, instead of a 10-foot setback, having a 2-foot setback right to his property line. So I would think that you'd handle that similar to how you do variances now, I think, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
that would be the only thing I could see. And that, not necessarily about this parcel, but if it was for the whole,
Right,
you could see where the troubles would come.
yes.
I agree too, that sounds like a great solution. Have it, the transfer goes with the property, so it allows you some flexibility about where you're gonna put it. And maybe we can retain more historic buildings.
I mean, it's probably gonna take some time, and I think working through it, we could certainly, and Rob's idea is a good one. But I'd like to see us go forward with it.
I'm not sure about it because in terms of maintaining distance, if there's a fire, we're not gonna have that. We're gonna go from building to building.
So one of the things that would have to happen is they would have to meet the building code, which I'm not an expert in, but there are certain requirements for wall penetrations and that type of stuff when you're closer than a certain distance from the property line or to the neighboring building. So I would envision that those things would still have to occur.
I think it's gonna be a group effort. I think, and the whole idea of setbacks is for fire.
Right.
And I think
But if we're-
bringing them into it, bringing building department into it,
What is the
we can get an
setback?
idea where we're going.
But Darren, you need 0. You need,
0, well, it's 5 feet from one building to another. This is on the property line where the other building's 20 feet away.
That's actually
Let's
not correct.
let's not talk about the next item until we get to it. Let's focus on this, and, the
You're
discussion
right.
is whether we want to pursue,
You're right, fire guide's gonna have a say.
yeah.
That there's already a
Absolutely.
building closer on the property line, you put another building, I think their general rule of thumb is 10 feet.
Yeah.
From one building to another. So if you were to move the building, and there's already a building on the property line, you would, by fire rule, would have to abide by that 10-foot.
okay.
But
But
the
that's just
question
an
is,
example.
yeah, the question is whether we want to start looking at a text amendment to
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Right,
For sure.
depending on what the setbacks are.
it's, at this point, it doesn't matter what the setbacks are, it's whether we want to pursue.
So the setbacks are
Looking
gonna
at text
vary
amendment.
depending on the zoning. The zoning setbacks are gonna vary. And then and Darren and Rob can probably speak better to this than I can, but it's going to also depend on the type of construction, the number of windows and doors, how close you can be to a neighboring structure. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I would definitely be working with building and fire to make sure that we're not, in the planning division, we're not going to be allowing something that, once they get to the building permit to reconstruct that building, they're not going to be able to do because the building department and fire won't issue a building permit for it.
Quick question for you. Would this, what we're entertaining to do, only affect the historic district, or would it be citywide?
My proposal would be only to impact the historic district, really because, as Mike said, old properties were developed without setbacks in mind. You're lucky if it's on your property.
Yeah, exactly. So is the consensus of the board that we want to pursue looking at that text amendment? Okay. So we'll give Heather that direction and we can,
Darren might have a
I
comment.
got something to say.
is there a public comment? Darren?
Yeah, for the record, Darren Berger. A zoning text amendment. I really need to emphasize that I can't go up against who I refer to as Big Brother. I need an entity like yourselves to support this effort. Everything about this makes sense. I get it. It sounds a little self-serving, and I won't deny it. It is. It's self-serving. But there
you just look around the west side, there's countless buildings sitting right on the property line. So it's not an uncommon thing. And I scratch my head and I look at the setbacks where my building is, and it doesn't fit, it doesn't work. 20-foot setback and side yards, and it's like, it's like they did it in a vacuum, not even considering the historic district. So with regard to this, I would argue it can be as broad or as narrow as you want to make it. You could apply it only to this block, or you could apply it to the entire historic district, which seems more fair and more appropriate, but you could narrow it down, because what worries me is the timeline. Well, how long is this going to take? And the reason why I'm concerned is I have an agreement with Mr. Dom, a handshake. We both agree to share the rather absorbent cost to go through this. This is, I'll have skin in the game, and I asked Mr. Dom if he would have a share of that. So we agreed to, I think it's $3,300 to go through this. Ouch, right? So he'll split it with me 50-50, but there's no guarantee. So on behalf of Mr. Dom and myself, we are really asking you guys as a group to embrace this and to make it happen, because I know I'm preaching to the choir. This makes sense, and I understand the concerns about, well, you can't put it down right next to another structure because it causes a fire, that sort of thing. But everybody gets that, and that's nuanced stuff, and we can navigate through that. For example, with regard to this project, it's a type 5, and I'm required to have a 1-hour firewall. And back to some of your earlier points about preserving the skin of a structure, not the entire building. This is my intent with this building. We're going to dismantle it. I cannot use what's inside there to.
Let's talk about that with the next item.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Let's.
Okay,
We can move.
so
Well, what I can tell you, Darren, is with us supporting item 5C, I'd be happy to, when you come for your variance, I'd be happy to testify in support of changing that.
okay,
language.
yeah, we need that, because I'd hate to see that.
Yeah, I mean,
$300
it'd
fly
be
away.
great if we could get it done and it would serve you, but I can't see it happening that fast. It's,
Okay, just knowing it's getting done is half the
Yeah,
battle. Okay,
yeah.
moving on from that, I wanted to bring up just one other item with regard to that, and that's that property line discussion. No one has any idea where property lines are in the district. I approached a surveyor and asked him, he wants $10,000 to dial in where my property line is. That that cost isn't appropriate for what we're trying to do. So I wanted to ask that you also support the idea that when we pursue this, you will support the approach of using known structures to take that on. All right, sorry. Then I have nothing further to say. I apologize.
Motion on this?
No, discussion only.
Okay. We all support it though, right?
yeah, so we've directed Heather to begin the process, and we certainly support it as a board. So.
So just for clarity, Mr. Berger's going to have to apply for the text amendment. We cannot take direction from HRC to initiate a text amendment. We can only take an application from a property owner, or the Planning Commission or Board of Supervisors can direct us.
So if Darren applies for it,
We'll initiate
you
it.
can initiate it, it goes to planning after that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we can jump in at that point.
Yes.
And, okay.
Yep.
All right, item 5D, HRC 2025-0231 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding request by J. Gregory Dam applicant to demolish the garage on property zoned residential office, RO, located at 202 South Nevada Street, Assessor's parcel number 003-123-02. Heather.
So this was before you at your July 2nd meeting. As we just discussed, it was continued at that time to this meeting to discuss options for possibly relocating the structure to an adjacent property. I'm available for questions based on the last discussion item. I don't really have a recommended motion for you at this time.
I'd like to see us continue this until we get resolve of the text amendment, instead of sitting here speculating what would happen. I just think we continue it till the Board of Supervisors and we go through this process. If they've got it, it's worked out. We don't have to, that's my opinion on this one.
Let's go ahead and discuss the item and see where it takes us. So, Darren, do you want to fill us in on where you are right now in terms of?
Okay. Yeah.
Well, pretty much, yeah, reiterate what you said.
Yeah,
previously
sorry
about
if I
talking to
talk
Mr.
too
Dom
much.
and-
Mr. Dom has agreed to partner up with me to get that off his property. We agreed to split the cost for the zoning text amendment. Yeah, he's put a deadline of April 30th. He's a lawyer, so they do things like that. And that's what worries me about the zoning text amendment. So that's in play, but I think that's a moving target. Heck, it's been an issue for a long period of time. But yeah, he would like to see me take that off his property. He's willing to do that. He's willing to split the cost with me. So if we get this zoning text amendment, it'll come down and get moved on to my property and it'll be preserved. It's a win-win-win.
Heather, I've got a question. The item before us is to demolish a garage on that property.
Yes.
I suppose I'm sure we can't change that to removal and relocation at this point.
We can't at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
But could we,
We,
if
well,
we
we
were to
could
make a
condition
motion,
it.
could we
can
condition it
Yes.
with removal and okay, thank you.
So here's my question. As far as us being a historic district, we should be able to vote on this and approve it based on the only then stipulation would be him going forward and running into the building department and the fire department and zoning, which is not our thing.
Well, that's kind of where I was going, Rob.
In other
If
words,
we,
yeah.
we could approve it with a condition for
Right.
removal and relocation,
Yeah, then in the meantime, it can be done, but properly stored until such time approval can be accessed to its location of reinstallation. We just want to make sure it doesn't happen like the chimney, get approved and have it sit in a warehouse or under tarps for 10 years. So we'd have to have something like that, some way to guarantee that this will be a ongoing proposition. Actually, that would be not our purview. We could approve this any way we want. It would be up to the building department zoning to allow the demolition or the deconstruction to happen. That wouldn't be us.
well, if we approve it if we approve the demolition with the condition of removal and relocation, and the planning department says, no, we can't do that, then it has to come back to us again, because it's not going to meet our condition.
But then there would be no point coming back to us if we couldn't approve anything that the zoning department could approve. We'd end up in a,
Look for other.
sounds like a Chinese fire drill.
Look at other options, but.
No pun intended.
Could we make a motion to deny and then it still has to come back? Why can't we continue this on to another one? Because if we deny it, it still has to come back to us.
What Darren's trying to do is get it moved. If we deny it, then
Can't
when
do
he
anything.
goes to the planning commission and asks for a variance, it's like, well, there's nothing to approve here,
But-
okay?
The other question, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I think I would rather continue it, because if we agree to demolition, it goes back to Mr. Dom, who's the applicant, and he could tear it down in the meantime.
Not if we-
stipulation to be
Not if we
dismantled.
condition it with removal and relocation. And what that does is it gives Darren something to bring to the board, saying, look, I can save this property and meet these conditions. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, if I may,
Go ahead, let's have some public comment. Go ahead.
for the record, Garrett Lapierre, neighbor directly across the street from this shed. Mr. Darney, that's a great idea. That's what I was coming up to say, is I would really encourage you guys to approve this, so Darren can go forward with the planning commission and say, I have approval to be able to remove this from the historic commission. So I think that would be helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, it's the same thing we're looking at with the revision of the setbacks is. This gives us something that we can go and support Darren in his efforts to get the thing.
I think
through planning.
my comment was mostly geared at allowing him to do something now instead of waiting, 3 to 6 months to go through the form process. We could allow him to dismantle and store.
That's a gamble.
If you wanted to do that. I mean, there's no point in dismantling if you ain't got. a
Well,
place
I
to
wouldn't
put it
mind the
back up,
extra
right?
time, but that assumes that the zoning would get changed, right?
It kind of burdens Darren with a bunch of tin and
Stuff.
a pile of rust someplace that he has to
True.
deal with later, so.
We'd have to have him post bond, make sure he put it back up.
Yeah, I like where you're going, but yeah.
This is a question for the district attorney. Can the chairman make a motion?
Yes.
If I might, I just want to remind you guys that these approvals are good for 12 months. So if you were to approve removal and storage, that doesn't mean that this has to happen tomorrow or in the next 6 months. It could happen after the text amendment is approved. So they do have 12 months to actually perfect the removal of the building.
And if they can't do it in 12 months, they can come back, right? Okay.
What are the dates on these images?
Jed could speak to that.
Michelle wants to know the dates of the two.
Google Earth kind of exaggerates the distance, but if you look at the power pole, it'll show you where the shed on the top picture was just to the north of that, and where Darren proposes to put the shed is just to the south of that.
That,
70s on the top?
1979, Gus Bundy took a picture.
that's not the same building.
Darren's building is.
Darren's building is the shed is not the same building as the shed. There was a shed on that property line.
Historic precedents.
No. No, the photo that Jed found shows a shed on the adjacent property. So we have precedent for a shed on the property line, just a
Property line,
different
yeah, that's
property.
what.
Yeah. Is there any other commission member questions, comments, ideas?
I just want to bring up the issue of the property line too. There needs to be some convincing of the building department with regard to how you locate that. Again, pulling a tape versus, a satellite and all that at a very high expense. There needs to be an agreement with, we said property line and we think it's here, and we'll have an agreement with the neighbor who's already, I've talked to them and they're okay. But that has to be dovetailed, I think, into this conversation.
That's probably doable, some kind of a easement. We do it all the time with power lines. If a power pole's on your property and I got to get to my box, I have to have you sign off on an easement to allow my wire to go across your property. I wouldn't think that would be any more complicated than that.
So,
I don't know that it's under our purview, Darren, to talk about property lines and.
right,
and survey.
Heather Ferris for the record. So just to be clear, the building official requires what's called a setback letter when a new structure is built anywhere in the city. And that letter is written by a surveyor who says the structure is being built where it is represented on the site plan that's submitted with the building permit application. It's not within the purview of HRC. Certainly, we can talk about that with a text amendment, although I don't believe that would impact the zoning code at all. It might just be a matter of discussion with the building official.
Okay.
There's just ambiguity. It has to be worked out. The property line situation, whether the text amendment gets approved. I'm going to make a motion that we continue this for 6 months. We can't make a decision. Let them take the building down. We're saying, okay, take it down and you don't ever have to put it back up. If we have them come back in 6 months, we're going to know the text amendment was approved, most likely. We're going to beat your April because we'd be here in March if that happened. And we don't have to speculate on what's the building department going to say about the property lines? What's the fire department going to say about the firewall? What's the planning commission going to say about the text amendment? Let's avoid all the speculation and just, you're not in a hurry, are you? You're okay if it stays there 6 more months? I mean,
I would like it to have been gone 6 months ago. But back to the point of your purview as the HRC is to just say, yes, we would allow this to be relocated. And if you approve that, then the planning department and the planning commission is not gonna have any heartburn when it goes in front of them, which will be before March of 2026.
There's no reason we can't do that. Because all we're doing is agreeing to have it allowed to be moved. Then they have to go through all the other hoops to technically find out how to do that. That's not our thing. But we've already said, if you can figure out how to get through the building department, zoning department, fire department, then we've already approved you moving it.
To be clear, this will not be going forward to the planning commission. If you guys approve a demolition,
No, we don't want to do that.
it will not go to the planning commission. They will have to apply for a building permit to demolish a building.
Well, we're talking
And that
about-
will be
We're
it.
talking about approving moving it.
Right.
Only.
And that reconstruction will have to happen at some point in the future, right?
Well, for 1 year they'd have, right?
You guys haven't seen a plan for
No, but if
for
we approve-
reconstruction
if we
on.
approve
If we-
moving of
yeah,
a structure.
If we approve removal and relocation, then
Yes,
we have a condition, this is what we've approved.
and that would be good for 12 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
I understand what you're saying, Don, but if I go before the planning commission and say, yeah, we've heard this, we're continuing it, it's mushy ground. If we say we approve the demolition with the condition for removal and relocation,
to that specific
that-
spot that they're
yeah.
asking for.
yeah.
I don't know what more we could do than what the action we just all agreed to before this one, that you're going to go and speak on behalf, and unanimously, this board is in favor of that text amendment. I don't know how passing demolition and relocation adds any more credence to that than what we would be bringing.
And I would remind you, staff would be presenting a text amendment that would impact the entire district. We're not going to be looking at a text amendment that impacts one parcel. So what your action is with this particular request is, it's an example for us to utilize, but it's not going to be the entire reason for a text amendment. It's whether or not it'll make sense in the district. And from what you guys said with the previous item, it sounds like it makes sense for the district.
I like it because it gets it off of our desk, and then they can go forward with someone else's desk. because if it doesn't happen, it's because they ran into a brick wall somewhere else, not because they ran into a brick wall here. And there's no downside to us approving the move. Because it's up to someone else to see that that occurs or not us.
I'm sorry, isn't the motion to approve removal and relocation to the 312 West Third Street property pending the process of the zoning text amendment? Pending the outcome of the zoning text amendment
second.
process? Is that what you, okay.
I'm just wondering if we need to be that specific. Whether we need to move it to 312, or if we just say removal and relocation. It gives anybody else in the district, if Darren can't do it,
That would be my recommendation, because you're going to want to see Darren's application when he is ready to erect that building.
yeah, I'd rather just be general and say removal and relocation. And if someone else in the district wants it and there's not these issues, it can be done. And I think it's not in our purview anyway.
You took the words out of my mouth. Darren's got skin in the game here.
But it does it lets us support what you're trying to do. It's like, this is exactly this is the condition that we set, and this person's willing to meet that condition.
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely somebody else would step in and want to do it, right?
If I recall, we had this building come up
Garrett, do you have room on?
10 years ago, and we approved them to move it, or we suggested they find someone to move the building, the same one. That was our intent back then, is to get it moved, relocated.
God, years ago, there was a little building on Curry Street that we approved, same thing. It's like, if it's moved, we're fine, so. Any other public comment?
Just say that that tool is a great tool to have in your guys' tool belt to be able to allow people to move it without that setback parameter. So being able to have that tool will help the historical district. So great idea.
We'll entertain a motion.
Might I recommend an additional condition?
You might.
Okay. If you are looking to approve, based on the discussion, I would recommend a condition that states something to the effect of: the shed may be removed from the subject property, dismantled and stored for relocation at an alternative location in the future.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
There are 4 conditions right now. The one that I just read would be condition 5.
5.
And on page 94, there's a recommended motion, and you could just modify it to include an additional condition number 5.
So number 5 would be,
Do you want me to read it again?
well, we're going to approve it with the condition that the shed be removed and relocated, and the shed may be, what you said.
The shed may be removed from the subject property, dismantled and stored for relocation at an alternative location in the future.
Great. Now, does anybody want to make a motion?
Do we need to have stored in there, just taken down,
Can I comment?
redone?
Or is it too late? So, I'm sorry, am I okay? So, Mr. Dom could take this down and store it, and I have no, I'm just, again, I got skin in the game. Once I write a check, I want some guarantee that I'm gonna get it. I don't think anybody's gonna
think-
do anything underhanded, but that's a pretty
I
open-ended
think
comment.
we can say removed and relocated as one condition, and then have the building can be,
So I would recommend that Mr. Berger resolve that issue with Mr. Dom. If you need to pay for it or whatever to store it on your property, then that would be between the two of you. I don't think the commission needs to dictate who buys it, where it's relocated at this point, because we don't have an application for relocation in front of us.
So I see one flaw with that.
That's,
There's no guarantee that this would go back up.
Correct. It's
And that's what
essentially
we have to put
demolition.
some verbiage in, like this would have to be contingent. The removal would have to be contingent on application for a permit of some sort to allow that to happen.
I hate to be a pain. I made a motion, and I think there was a second. Is there a vote?
I don't know if was there a motion and a second? There was a motion, I never called for a second.
What's the
I
motion?
volunteered it voluntarily.
You did? Do you, go ahead and repeat it then, Don. Oh, you're talking about seconding,
did you want to
you
continue?
wanted, okay.
Heather made a recommendation. It made sense to me. It was to the point, it got us out of having to worry if Mr. Berger was gonna rebuild it. It was her one condition, number 5, and I said,
Can you go back to page 94
Or 90?
and just formalize your recommendation with the inclusion
I think we should
of
wait
number
for
5?
another motion.
This
Go
was-
ahead, Rob.
I move we continue the action of, what's the number here? Of
Rob, are we continuing or are we making a motion to demolish, remove, and relocate?
I think I agree, continuing has no harm here. We can always do that at the continuance. That makes sense? That allows them to proceed with their.
Yeah, if it passes and we support this at the planning commission, then it's nebulous ground.
What was the beginning of yours?
I've been tracking what you guys are talking about. So are you wanting to continue it, or are you wanting a motion for possible approval? Approval? My,
Rob's gonna make a motion to continue. Let's let him make the motion and we'll go through the process. And if it passes, it passes.
Don will back up.
Mike, just a quick thought. Can we continue this for a month and get all of our thoughts and everything together?
I'm back on. I'll make a motion. I move to approve HRC 2025-0231 as presented, and subject to the conditions of approval included in staff report, as long as the building is removed and replaced.
Relocated
No, relocated.
within the district.
That way we don't have a continuation they can do. You got your support?
I have a motion. Did that include, condition number 5? Yeah. Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second.
Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll say I am for it.
So we are unanimous? Okay, thank you. The motion is unanimous. Thank you.
Try to do something conventional this week, okay?
Yeah, thank you, guys. Number 6, staff reports. Staff?
I don't have really anything to report, other than our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 5th, 4 o'clock.
How many administrative do you have that?
Oh, I don't have that.
Next meetings.
Okay, thank you.
You, Mike, you did a admin approval at 525 West Spear Street, and they completed the roof, and it looks great.
Commission member reports, comments?
I got a
Commission
comment.
member reports or comments?
I got a question.
Hey. Go ahead.
I'm noticing by driving by, nothing's been happening at the church on King Street as far as the steeple. Do we need to, who would want to make a phone
They
call?
are waiting for SHPO because it's in the historic district, and SHPO to give them the authorization to remove the cross.
Track somebody down at SHPO
So
and find out what's going on.
It's been repainted, but the wonderful donor doesn't want to get a man lift for 120 feet and then have to go get another man lift for 180 feet. So they're waiting for SHPO to approve the cross being removed. So he gets one man lift, recreates the louvers, fixes the louvers and does all the work at one time.
That was unofficial from Jen. Any other commission member reports, comments? Future agenda item, we'll bring the language or the text
I
amendment
can bring
back.
that, yeah, assuming that Darren applies for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any public comment? Seeing no public, I'll call for a motion for adjournment. Second? All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.